Story 1. People who intentionally throw their trash on the ground are disrespectful to everyone else. Story 2. The way people treat others when they do not need anything from them is usually a good sign of decency, in my experience. Story 3. They treat retail and service workers like servants instead of actual human beings who deserve decency and respect. Story 4. No sense of self-awareness or self-reflection. Sorry to everyone I offended. I had not realized how many people would see this. I mean, people who do not notice when they are being rude constantly, even if you bring it up. Story 5. The way they act on public travel, playing TikTok videos or music, putting their bag on the outside seat, or sitting on the outside seat with their bag on the inside stops anyone from getting that seat, especially when the bus is busy. I hate traveling, so it is bad enough when other passengers make it worse. Story 6. They put down others in conversation. It may be in a joking context, but they do it enough that you realize they are not joking and are just speaking plainly. Story 7. Not saying please or thank you. Whether it is just a simple door hold or a quick exchange with a worker, just say thank you. I am baffled by the lack of civility these days. Story 8. No sense of humor. Empathy and self-deprecation are requirements to be funny. Humor requires empathy. No humor means no empathy. Story 9. Entitlement and selfishness. They judge the world but neither work on themselves nor take accountability for their behavior. Story 10. Always disrespecting other people's boundaries, and they think it is funny. They are not impressing anyone with that nonsense. Story 11. How they treat others around them and their behaviors. Not following rules in public. Loud pipes in residential areas at night are a sign of a lack of self-awareness. Being aggressive towards other people in public for no reason. Lack of respect for animals and the environment. Parents allowing bad behavior because of their laziness. That is more than one issue. Story 12. At the slightest hint of criticism, they deny it at first, and if that is not working, they go full werewolf mode on the person stating it. Story 13. Lack of basic manners, also known as saying please and thank you or holding a door open for someone else passing through. Story 14. Not sharing space on walkways, sidewalks, or hiking trails is problematic, especially on hiking trails. When a group of 3 or more people sees others approaching and makes no effort to allow them to pass, it causes issues. The more constricted the place, the worse the situation becomes. It is less concerning when this happens on a sidewalk in a walkable area with minimal street traffic. However, when it occurs on major streets, mountain trails, or trails in protected regions that prohibit or strongly discourage walking off the path to conserve wildlife, it demonstrates a lack of respect for others and the environment. Story 15. Lack of consideration, to me, is the telltale sign. If you show nothing but inconsideration, it tells me all I need to know. Story 16. People who say things like, that is their job. Examples include someone who does not throw their trash away after leaving a table at Starbucks or someone who unfolds every shirt on a table at a retail store. Yes, it technically is the employee's job to fix those things, but you also do not need to be rude and leave a mess for them. Story 17. Hyperjudgmental, makes many assumptions about people and fully believes they understand themselves inside and out at all times. Story 18. They think unauthorized immigrants do not deserve basic human rights or due process and get angry that people believe they do and are willing to protest for it. Story 19. Think you cannot be moral without believing in God. It is like the only thing preventing them from acting immorally. Story 20. Lack of subtle socialization awareness. They have no awareness of their tone of voice when speaking and do not seem to care if they say things that easily offend others. Unfortunately, when the individual experiences the same behavior directed toward themselves, it is triggering for them. Story 21. When they see that they are blocking someone from access to something or getting by and do nothing to help, often even taking pleasure in it. Story 22. They cannot tolerate criticism. When they are criticized, they always yell, "You do not know what you are talking about." These people cannot apologize. They cannot take accountability. Whenever you want to hold them accountable, there is no safe place for you to do so. Story 23. They do not think about the needs of others, just themselves. There is an elderly lady at my part-time job. When I arrive, her shift involves sitting at a table, and she is either sitting on some pallets or on a staircase. Story 24. Not having basic manners such as saying please and thank you, shaking hands, making eye contact when speaking to someone, holding utensils properly, not interrupting others, and avoiding trying to outdo everyone. Story 25. People who get offended if you ask them to stop disturbing or inconveniencing others are instantly dismissed in my mind. Story 26. There is a saying about people's personalities when it comes to returning shopping trolleys, because there are no actual rules requiring you to return them to their bay. I always do because that is what I was taught. However, I have seen people leave them to roll off in the car park, into cars, take up spots, and just abandon them at the doors. It seems like a superior attitude, but it is a subtle way to judge character. Story 27. Total lack of spatial awareness. These are the type of people who stand in the way and make no effort to step aside or drive as if they are the only ones on the road. Story 28. When you are trying to communicate something they are doing that might upset you, they take it as an immediate attack, even if it is as simple as, "Hey, can you wash your dishes?" Story 29. They are willing to be friends with virtually anyone who makes them feel loved and accepted, almost regardless of their character. Story 30. In the United Kingdom, they pronounce the word for a man with no hair on his head as bold instead of bald. Story 31. Not taking no as an answer. You are not selling me a car. I just do not want to go on a date with you, Stephen. Story 32. Cheat on their loved ones, make fun of people with disabilities, intentionally mispronounce things and names, think they can do whatever they want regardless of societal norms or the law, criticize others and then write it off as someone else's fault when they do the same things, constantly betray those they presume are their friends or business partners, involved in the Epstein list. I could go on. Story 33. I think you can tell a lot about someone by the way they drive. You can instantly tell who those are that really do not care about anyone but themselves. Story 34. I think placing the grocery cart in the designated area in the parking lot versus just leaving it loose is an interesting indicator. Story 35. They can never admit they are wrong or acknowledge that they could stand to learn more about a topic. Story 36. When someone shows blatant disregard for others in pursuit of something they want, even if it is trivial. Someone who pushes through crowds for a Black Friday deal. Someone who darts in and out of traffic going too fast. Someone who bikes down pedestrian trails at top speed, dangerously close to senior citizens because they are training for a race. Story 37. Very selfish attitude. Every focus is on how they are not benefiting from a situation, whether it is money, attention, entertainment, or something else. Think of someone at another person's birthday party who spends the whole time complaining that they hate the decorations, the design of the cake is ugly, and they dislike or cannot eat the flavor of cake chosen. It is someone else's birthday, so it is their favorite things, not yours. Story 38. Playing loud music without headphones while hiking in nature, where other people are present, such as in national parks and forests, shows a lack of self-awareness and consideration. Story 39. People who always think that money is the answer to everything. This is just one of the things he did. We had a friend. This certain friend, a male, had an agreement with another friend, a female, to meet up for school stuff. They agreed to meet up somewhere, but the boy did not come to the agreed place, so she went to his condo. She messaged him and waited for almost an hour outside his condo, but he did not come out. The next morning, the boy went to the girls' dorm and left the school stuff along with 200 pesos. An apology would have sufficed, but he never said sorry. Story 40. Whenever people do kind things just to post them online, such as giving money to the poor or donating to the food bank, it is not truly kind. If your entire social media platform is centered on helping others, it can feel like you are doing it for attention rather than from the kindness of your heart. Story 41. Have you ever held a door for someone only to see them walk through without acknowledging it with a nod or thanks? Story 42. Every conversation ends with right or wrong and never any understanding from them. They are exhausting. Story 43. As someone with autism, I have seen many people using excuses to avoid trouble. I may be autistic and a millennial, but I was taught how to behave responsibly and take ownership of my actions. If I did something wrong, I accepted the consequences without excuse, as sometimes it is necessary. When I was in high school, there were times I thought it was worth getting in trouble if it meant defending myself. Today, some parents, mostly from my generation, do everything they can to prevent their children from facing the consequences of their actions. Story 44. They lie about trivial things, such as locking a door that was previously unlocked, claiming they did not lock it, even though they are the only occupant inside the house at the time. Story 45. When people never take accountability for their actions, admit when they are wrong, and are unable to honestly and sincerely apologize, it creates problems. Sometimes, there are individuals who are genuinely the worst kind of person. They either think it is funny or do not see a problem with their behavior. They genuinely like who they are because, for some reason, their minds cannot comprehend why their behavior is not acceptable. Story 46. People who have a comment or rebuttal for every topic and refuse to admit they might be wrong, or that their opinion is factual. Story 47. Insults on the internet during discussions often include personal attacks that do not defend the point or address the subject. These attacks usually target a person's physical appearance. Sometimes I say, I can be an ugly troll living under a bridge, and it still wouldn't make me wrong. There are death threats toward people who act in general. I have heard stories of actors or actresses receiving death threats due to the characters they play. You realize it is just a character and not who they are as a person, right? They play the roles written for them. If their character makes you feel a certain way, it means they did a great job as actors. Story 48. I have found that this is why we do what we do. It gets more complicated than this, but this helped me to understand. Hope it helps. Romans 7 verses 14 to 25, New American Standard Bible, 1995. 14. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am of flesh, sold into bondage to sin. 15. For what I am doing, I do not understand. For I am not practicing what I would like to do, but I am doing the very thing I hate. 16. But if I do the very thing I do not want to do, I agree with the law, confessing that the law is good. 17. So now, no longer am I the one doing it, but sin which dwells in me. 18. For I know that nothing good dwells in me, that is, in my flesh. For the willing is present in me, but the doing of the good is not. 19. For the good that I want, I do not do, but I practice the very evil that I do not want. 20. But if I am doing the very thing I do not want, I am no longer the one doing it, but sin which dwells in me. 21. I find then the principle that evil is present in me, the one who wants to do good. 22. For I joyfully concur with the law of God in the inner man. 23. But I see a different law in the members of my body, waging war against the law of my mind and making me a prisoner of the law of sin which is in my members. 24. Wretched man that I am, who will set me free from the body of this death? 25. Thanks be to God through Jesus Christ our Lord. So then, on the one hand, I myself with my mind am serving the law of God, but on the other, with my flesh, the law of sin. Story 49. How they treat animals. My grandmother cannot stand most pets. She acts like she likes them, but when no one is around, she is very mean to them, speaking in a rude tone and ignoring them. I think if someone is willing to be heartless to an animal that is kind and curious, imagine how they act toward a person. Story 50. Intellectual fragility. Cannot handle viewpoints that are different from their own. There is a lot of that going around on social media right now. Story 51. This is going to sound odd, but my ex was a pathological liar. The strange thing was that I could do anything I wanted except call her out on a lie. If I did, there was hell to pay and more obvious, stupid lies to get out of the situation. Story 52. They see the plight of others and, despite well-documented reasons for why they have been wronged, they dismiss those reasons, call them weak for being in that situation to begin with, declare that they do not deserve help, and arrogantly proclaim how they would never have allowed themselves to end up like them. That is not exactly subtle, but it has been happening a lot lately. Story 53. Not so subtle signs. They wear orange-tinted makeup, have terrible comb-over hairstyles, and insult other people. Story 54. They never ask you a single question about yourself. When you share something, they continue talking only about themselves. They have no capacity to learn about other people. Story 55. Just wondering why when people are nice and then do something mean, it is said, that is who they really are. Why is being nice considered a cover for the mean person they actually are? Aren't people more nuanced than this? Story 56. Not putting another roll of toilet paper in the bathroom when you know the next person will not have any if you do not. Story 57. They never say thank you for anything, whether it is helping them move house or to the barista in the coffee shop. Being so ungrateful reveals a sense of entitlement and belittles and demeans other people, who are not even seen as deserving a genuine thank you. Narcissists are the absolute worst for this, as they are very entitled. However, I have also legitimately wondered whether it is pathological in some people or simply just bad manners. Treating others as though they are beneath you or so inconsequential that they do not even merit decent human interaction is a red flag. Story 58. You are on a bus or in a public space and someone starts playing music or watching a video without headphones. How would you feel if everyone else was doing this? Annoyed? Exactly. On a positive note, I was on a bus around 2013 to Chicago, and I thought the person next to me was going to be annoying with his movie watching. He saw my look of annoyance and said he would turn off the movie if it was bothering me. I felt bad and said it was fine. He then asked if I wanted to watch a bootleg Avengers movie with him. We shared his headphones and watched the entire movie, which was badly recorded from a movie theater screen. To that person, you give me hope for humanity. I hope the world has been equally kind to you this past decade. Story 59. A small pet peeve, though not my main one, which is never saying thank you, is speaking loudly for any extended time in a library. Even more annoying is loudly declaring that they will do what they want if anyone asks them to quiet down. This behavior shows that someone does not care about everyone else in the library and thinks we all want to listen to them. Story 60. When they enter into a position of power and trust and then abuse that power for their own personal gain or vengeance. Story 61. Lack of accountability is the single biggest sign of someone who was raised with expectations on how they will be treated but never once had expectations set for how they should treat others. Story 62. They do not understand the value of hard work and frequently use suicide as a reason to get others to listen to them. Story 63. People who are bullies. It all starts in the home, and those who are raising these children should never have been allowed to have children in the first place. Story 64. They act superior. If you get a B on a test, they cannot just say they got an A. They have to rub it in that they did better and got an A. If you win a game against them, they will insist they let you win because they could not possibly be defeated by you. If you win a prize, they have to come up with a reason why that prize is not great and that something they won in the past was much better. Story 65. I don't know. Whenever I am introduced to someone, I always shake their hand. Maybe I am old school, but that is the way I was raised. I was also taught to look at people when they talk to show you are paying attention and engaged in the conversation. Story 66. Calling your daughter a slut in a fit of rage happened 2 days ago by my dad. He somewhat caught himself, but it was too late. He mocks me when my voice shakes because I'm angry at him. He mocks, screams, and laughs at me when I'm crying over anything. He cannot genuinely apologize and change. He apologizes, but if I calmly ask him, "Why did you scream at me?" 5 seconds later he is screaming again, calling me emotional or mentally unstable. When he found out I went to therapy, he now uses that against me to show that I am wrong and he is right because I am psychologically damaged. So yes, emotionally abusing your daughter and her mother for years is a sign, and thinking you can buy our love is wrong. Story 67. My cousins would come to family cookouts and eat all of the steak and shrimp. They would leave gristle and shrimp tails everywhere they happened to eat, on the ground, the table, even the carpet. I thought it was because they were used to having dogs at home. My father would have to hide portions for each of his family members. They would complain when the food ran out, and it usually ended in an argument. He cooked all kinds of proteins like chicken legs, hot dogs, breasts, brats, and Italian sausage, and that was all we had left to give people for takeaway. The side dishes were largely untouched. Their parents wouldn't say anything to them even after they ate a couple of pounds and no one else got any. They also came empty-handed. I'm older now, and my cousins are still entitled, disgusting people who left their parents to rot when they got old. I'm glad my father stopped funding the family get-togethers for mostly awful people. My aunt is intellectually disabled, and although they were normal, her childlike mind raised them to be mostly feral. My mom's side of the family had a couple of creepy members that we were told never to be alone with. Story 68. Refusal to get a job. Armchair diagnosis of every argument, saying you have borderline personality disorder. Story 69. I'm part of a board gaming group, and when things are being passed out to the various players, there is one person who always grabs his own items but never helps pass other people their items. He is generally a nice person. However, you asked for subtle signs that someone was never taught to be a decent human being, and I would say this fits the description. Story 70. Either voting for Donald Trump or abstaining from the election. There is actually an important moral test underlying every outcome option. Story 71. Incapable of taking any responsibility for their actions, they constantly use others as an excuse. They are unable to see how bad behavior is a human problem and, as a result, frequently attempt to dehumanize and devalue people they dislike or disagree with. They are also incapable of considering alternate perspectives or explanations for things. In summary, most people who have been indoctrinated on social media, as well as most members of the Democratic National Committee and the Democratic Party. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.